The lights in the corridor were old and dim, flickering erratically from neglect, casting unsettling shadows that danced with my rising anxiety. Ava had just finished my night shift, my hair still damp with clinging raindrops. Winter had barely begun, yet the air already held a biting chill. I needed to save more money quickly before the real snows arrived, to buy Lily a new padded jacket. Lost in mental calculations, I was startled when a door nearby swung open abruptly, releasing a thick wave of stale alcohol fumes. "Hey gorgeous," a slurred voice accosted me. 200 for the night, interested? I froze lung, then realization hit. I shook my head vigorously, waving my hands in dismissal. "No, I'm not. You've made a mistake." Keeping my head down, I hurried past. This was an old, run-down building. The cheap rent attracted a mixed bag of tenants. Still, this was the first time something like this had happened to me. My rented room was at the very end of the long corridor, still some distance away. My fingers tightened instinctively around my shoulder bag strap. I wished I could just teleport home. But the drunk man wasn't deterred by my refusal. He pushed his door fully open and stumbled out after me, belligerent. "Don't play innocent. I've seen you comin' back late every night for weeks. Who are you kiddin'? Not bein' in the business." "You're really mistaken," I insisted, not daring to look back, quickening my pace. "I work the night shift at the 24-hour convenience store. That's all." He actually started chasing me. "Don't lie to me. Just playin' hard to get, 'cause the price is low, huh? How about I add more? 500 for the night, deal?" His coarse voice echoed down the hallway. His large frame loomed like a predatory beast, seemingly ready to pounce and devour me. "Even the madam at that salon down the street goes for that price. You ain't bad lookin', but don't get too full of yourself. 500. Hey, why the hell are you running?" He cursed loudly. My hand fumbled desperately inside my bag. "Don't come any closer. Stay back or I'll call the police." Panic seized me as I tried to locate my phone and keys simultaneously, my hand trembling uncontrollably, slick with sweat. The threat of calling the police seemed to enrage him further. He kicked over a bag of trash left outside a neighbor's door and lunged towards me. With renewed aggression. "Call the cops, my ass. Don't you know who runs things around here, you ungrateful bitch? Gotta do this the hard way, huh?" I broke into a desperate sprint. I hadn't managed to grab my phone or keys, and then my feet tangled, sending me sprawling onto the dirty floor. An involuntary scream tore from my throat. "Help! Somebody help me!" The drunk man was almost upon me. Raw despair washed over me. I was only steps away from my own front door. Just as all hope seemed lost, click. The door directly opposite mine swung open. A tall, straight figure stood silhouetted against the dim light spilling from the room. I couldn't make out his features, only a striking shock of pure white hair, radiating an aura as cold and sharp as the early winter air. Like a drowning person grasping at a final straw, I scrambled forward, forgetting all decorum, and clutched desperately at the man's trouser leg, tears threatening to spill. "Help me, please help me." The drunk swayed, pointing an unsteady finger. "Who the hell are you, old man? Mind your own damn business, you hear?" Fear clenched my heart. What if this neighbor, whom I'd never spoken to, backed down? I clung tighter. "Sir, please, I beg you, help me. I have a child inside." The white-haired figure under the flickering light suddenly pulled his legs free from my grasp. A chilling cold spread through my veins. But before despair could fully engulf me, he stepped past me, moving to confront the drunk man directly. The faulty light overhead continued its erratic flashing, lending the scene a strangely eerie quality. The tall figure hadn't uttered a single word, yet he stood like an unbreachable wall between me and the drunk, offering silent, unwavering protection. "You, what's your deal?" The drunk couldn't see the man's face clearly, but he seemed to sense an overwhelming pressure, instinctively taking a step back. "Where do you come from? Do you even know who I am?" A cold draft snaked down the long corridor. The white-haired man finally spoke. His voice was surprisingly deep, much younger than I'd expected, resonant like stones striking jade. "Just got out of prison." The words hung cold and sharp in the hallway air. The drunk's expression changed. Then, another phrase drifted from under the flickering light. "Murder." That was the first time I saw Declanshura's face clearly. We had moved into our respective apartments around the same time, him opposite me, but our paths had never crossed. I'd only occasionally seen him from my window upstairs, pushing an elderly woman in a wheelchair for walks under the trees below. I had assumed they were an elderly couple. Because of his hair pure white, like freshly fallen snow, and his straight, lean posture, reminiscent of a retired soldier. If not for tonight's intervention, I would have likely continued under that misapprehension. He crouched down, extending a hand towards me. "Are you all right?" Close up, our eyes met. Beneath the stark white hair, his face was sharply defined, features strong and resolute. There were lines etched by hardship, yes, but no trace of elderly frailty. Instead, he emanated a quiet, compelling maturity, the kind of face, as they say in art films, that held 1,000 stories. I stared for a long moment before finally placing my trembling hand in his long-fingered one. "That guy's a local troublemaker," Declan said, his voice calm. "If you're not planning on moving, try to get home earlier from work. When there are more people around in the hallway, he won't dare try anything." He picked up my bag, brushed off the dust, and handed it back to me. Under the flickering light, I suddenly stammered. I work the night shift at the convenience store. My boss sets the hours. I can't leave earlier." "What time do you usually get back then?" It depends on when my relief arrives. Sometimes 2 in the morning, sometimes 3. He nodded, his tone neutral. "I see." With that, he turned, walked back into his apartment, and closed the door without a backward glance. Only as the old iron door was about to latch shut did I snap back to reality, calling out quickly, "Thank you. Thank you so much. I didn't catch your name." A long pause, then a low voice drifted back. "Declan." After quietly washing up, I sat beside my daughter Lily's bed, the tension finally draining from my body. I watched her sleep peacefully for a long time, motionless. The cold wind rattled the window panes. Suddenly, I covered my face with my hands, dampness seeping through my fingers. My heart felt heavy, waterlogged, aching with a bitter saline sorrow. Lily was such a good girl, so sensible and understanding. And yet, I felt like such an inadequate mother, unable to even afford to move us away from this place. Now that I'd angered the local bully, what would happen next? Would I really have to quit the convenience store job? To support us, I already worked days at a large baby supply chain store, then took on the extra night shift at the convenience store. Lily was kindergarten age. I left her at the school's boarding program during the day, picking her up only in the late afternoon. I'd make her dinner, help with her simple homework, wait until she fell asleep, then rush off to my night job. This relentless cycle barely covered our basic needs. If I lost the convenience store income, I probably couldn't even make this month's rent. I stared out the window. The light rain had been falling for most of the night, misting the glass like a vast white snowfield. My gaze felt lost. Absently, I traced a smiley face onto the fogged pane with my finger. It came out crooked, lopsided, looking more like a grimace than a smile. This winter felt so incredibly cold. Would I manage to save enough for Lily's new jacket before the year ended? The next night, I finished work at 3:30 a.m. I clutched a can of pepper spray inside my bag. Every step up the stairs fraught with anxiety. The corridor light still flickered erratically. As I reached my floor, a dark figure suddenly blocked the stairwell entrance. My heart leaped into my throat. My hand instantly went to my bag. Who's there? It's me. Under the unsteady light, the man slowly stepped forward. Tall frame, deep-set eyes, hair like snow. Declan. My clenched fist relaxed immediately. He walked towards me, a slight frown creasing his brow. "Your relief was late tonight?" I looked up at him, my eyelashes fluttering, my brain struggling to process. You waited here for me? How long have you been waiting?" "Surely not since 2 o'clock? Let's go." He cut me off curtly, turning and heading up the stairs. It was the same long, dim corridor, but this time 2 figures walked side by side. I followed closely behind Declan, a sense of calm settling over me, deeper than any I'd felt in a long time. I stole glances at him, his chilling words from the previous night echoing faintly in my mind. Just got out of prison. Murder. It was a shocking revelation. Yet, back in my room, thinking it over, I found it impossible to believe that this neighbor who had rescued me was truly a recently released murderer. Despite the white hair, he didn't seem old, early 30s at most. The timeline didn't fit a long sentence. And there was an undeniable air of integrity about him. Yes, a quiet, imposing dignity that would make petty thugs instinctively shy away. I could more easily believe he was a retired soldier than a convicted killer. My judgment of men had failed me spectacularly with my ex-husband, Mark, but years of struggling in the real world had taught me something about recognizing basic decency versus inherent malice. Perhaps this kind neighbor had simply fabricated the story to scare off the bully? As if sensing my scrutiny, Declan's lips tightened slightly, but he said nothing. He walked me right to my door, then turned back towards his own apartment across the hall, shutting his iron door with a decisive click before I could even utter a word of thanks. Such a strange man, I mused silently, a small smile touching my lips despite myself. The early winter rain continued its dreary drizzle outside, but somehow I didn't feel quite so cold anymore. From that day on, I had a silent guardian. The so-called local bully never bothered me again. I still knew almost nothing about Declan. What he did for a living remained a mystery. He seemed to have no regular job, spending most days inside his apartment, emerging only occasionally to push the elderly woman in the wheelchair for walks around the complex. Despite the lack of information, I felt an inexplicable trust in him. Something about him drew me in piece by piece. Finally, one night after my shift, I mustered my courage. Pulling a still warm paper bag from my backpack, I offered it to Declan as he waited by my door. "Teach, these are new corn rolls they started selling at the store today. They're really good. I wrapped them up well, they're still warm. Would you like to try one?" Declan's expression remained impassive, seemingly oblivious to my nervousness. "No thanks," he said directly. "You eat it." He paused, then added bluntly, "You're thin enough to be just bones." He turned to leave again, as detached as the wind. My face flushed, but I hurried after him, stammering, I just don't gain weight easily. It's not that I'm struggling that much. I eat enough, really. Need strength to work, right?" My earnest explanation sounded almost comical, even to my own ears. The tall figure walking ahead suddenly let out a soft, low chuckle. I stopped, astonished, then scurried forward to peer up at his face. "What are you doing?" he asked, sounding amused. "Looking at you," I blurted out, then added with wonder, "So you can smile. You're not actually emotionless." We stared at each other then, wide-eyed under the flickering light, until the shared absurdity of the moment made us both break into genuine laughter. After that night, something shifted. A quiet connection began to flow between us in the cold winter darkness, nurtured by the persistent rain, silently taking root. Life suddenly felt like it had purpose again. I threw myself into my work with renewed vigor, and nearing the year's end, was awarded a surprise outstanding employee bonus. It came from the baby supply store's head office. Usually such awards went to store managers. This year exceptionally it went to a regular employee. I was overjoyed, so caught up in my happiness that I completely missed the sour look on my manager's face. After work, I immediately bought Lily the promised new padded jacket. Then I went to the market and splurged on fresh meat to make dumplings. Meat prices were exorbitant this year. It had been far too long since Lily had a proper hearty meal. Guilt gnawed at me. She was growing and I felt like I wasn't providing enough. I truly felt like an inadequate mother. When the dumplings were cooked, Lily's delight was infectious. It was like celebrating the new year early. She ate with gusto, beaming, then solemnly thanked me. "Mommy, this is the happiest day ever. I have a new coat and yummy dumplings. Thank you, Mommy. You're the best mommy in the whole world." Her innocent words pierced my heart, making my eyes sting. Life was hard, yes, but fate had been kind in giving me the most understanding daughter imaginable. "Mommy, don't cry." Lily wrapped her small arms around my waist, patting my back comfortingly. She looked up at me, her voice soft and pleading. "Mommy, can you please not go to work tonight?" Her dark eyes searched mine. "I know when you leave," she whispered. "I can't sleep. I get scared. It's too dark at night." "Okay, sweetheart. Mommy won't go." I choked out, tears streaming down my face as I pulled her into a tight hug. "Mommy took the night off. I'm not going anywhere. Well, maybe just one place. How about we take some dumplings over to the uncle across the hall?" When Declan opened the small viewing window in his iron door, he was met with Lily's beaming face, bright and cheerful as a spring sunflower. "Uncle, dumplings." Ava held Lily, who proudly presented the plate of steaming dumplings. The scene was slightly comical. Declan blinked, opening his mouth to speak, but before he could, the sound of a wheelchair rolling closer came from inside the apartment, followed by an anxious elderly voice. "Declan, is that our son visiting?" Open the door quick. What are you waiting for? Now it was my turn to be taken aback. Declan, seeing my confusion, pursed his lips and explained succinctly. My mother. Alzheimer's. She gets confused, doesn't remember things well. The pieces clicked together. Understanding dawned on me. Before Declan could react further, I moved closer with Lily, raising my voice cheerfully towards the interior. Auntie, would you like some dumplings? The small apartment was sparsely furnished but immaculately clean. A computer on the desk was still on, displaying a half-finished digital illustration. A dreamy, atmospheric piece depicting a woman holding an umbrella in the rain, dressed in the style of the Republican era. The cobblestone street, the braided hair, the lilac blossoms blooming in a corner. It instantly reminded me of Dai Wangshu's poem, Rainy Alley. I turned to Declan, my eyes shining with surprised delight. You're an artist? He quickly closed the illustration program, his gaze lowered, his expression neutral. Just a hobby, he deflected. Helps pass the time. Sometimes I take commissions, sell a few pieces. He remained coolly reserved, like a deep chasm shrouded in mist, unapproachable. Just as disappointment began to prickle, Lily beside me noticed a pile of canvases and paints hidden under the computer desk. Uncle, I love drawing too, she exclaimed excitedly, immediately ducking under the table to investigate the treasure trove. I couldn't stop her in time. Lily, that's rude. It wasn't surprising she was so thrilled. Lily had always shown a remarkable talent for art. Her kindergarten teachers often praised her ability, but I couldn't afford art classes or expensive supplies for her. She usually just drew in notebooks. Seeing all these professional tools at once was like discovering Ali Baba's cave. Fascinated, she picked up a paintbrush and refused to put it down. I felt awkward, but Declan walked over, sat down on the floor beside her, and casually picked up another brush. There's more than one way to draw a fish in water, he began, his voice low and strangely captivating. It can blow bubbles or swish its tail, or even leap upstream like a bird flying through the sky. His deep voice held a magical quality, making the drawing lesson sound whimsical and engaging. I watched from the side, astonished. Could this patient, gentle man really be the same taciturn white-haired icicle I knew? Outside, the storm raged, wind and rain lashing against the building. Inside, however, a quiet peace reigned. I fed the elderly woman dumplings while Declan patiently guided Lily's hand across the canvas. It felt surreal, almost dreamlike, a scene plucked from a bygone era. Later, after the old woman and the child were both asleep, Ava and Declan sat by the window, sharing the last 2 cold dumplings. Ava smiled shyly, nibbling on her dumpling, trying to make conversation. Set bully neighbor. I think he moved out. Haven't seen him around. I know. Declan finished his dumpling in a few quick bites, his expression unreadable. He probably looked into my background. Got scared. Yes, scared, so he moved. Ava echoed absently, then suddenly looked up, her face paling. What background? What background do you think? Declan's dark eyes met hers directly. You really were? Ava's breath hitched. Declan held her gaze steadily, his expression open, Tanran, his words deliberate. Yes, I really served time in prison, and yes, it was on a murder charge. Any other questions? Ava's hands began to tremble uncontrollably. Declan noticed her reaction, a faint, cold smile touching his lips. You're scared now, aren't you? No, it's not that, Ava insisted quickly, shaking her head, her eyes welling up slightly. I can't believe it. Because you're such a good person. Declan looked at the shimmering light in her eyes and remained silent for a long moment before speaking. Does being a good person mean you can't end up in prison? He let out a soft, weary sigh, his white hair seeming stark against the dim light. I might be a good person, but I certainly haven't been a lucky one. That bully could only find out I was jailed for murder, he continued quietly. He couldn't find out why I was released early. There are plenty of things hidden from public record. He probably never imagined. The reason I got out was because... He paused, meeting her wide eyes. It was a wrongful conviction. I spent 14 years in prison for a crime I didn't commit, until the case was finally overturned. Before the age of 16, Declan had been the star student of his small-town high school. Class president, talented in multiple areas, handsome, with a bright, outgoing personality. Countless girls admired him from afar. His future seemed limitless, the epitome of a golden child. But at 16, that promising life came to an abrupt, catastrophic halt. He was plunged into an inescapable nightmare. A young woman's body, raped and murdered, was discovered in a public restroom near the school. A witness claimed to have seen a tall student in the local high school uniform near the scene around the estimated time of death. "I still don't know why the police zeroed in on me," Declan recounted, his voice devoid of inflection. "I'd just gone home for the weekend. When I returned for evening study hall, they were waiting for me." In that era, surveillance cameras were rare, forensic science was rudimentary, and the justice system itself had significant flaws. Some police officers were more interested in closing cases quickly than finding the truth, especially under pressure. "It was close to the new year," he explained. "Everyone was busy, but this horrific crime cast a pall over the town. There was immense pressure from higher-ups to solve the case quickly. A deadline was set. Find the culprit, or no one gets a peaceful holiday." In that small town, the quality of policing varied greatly. Some officers were barely better than the criminals they pursued. Dealing with a teenager who hadn't even fully entered society, they had their methods. After rounds of intense interrogation, likely involving coercion, the case was declared solved. Everyone could celebrate the new year. Everyone except Declan's family. "The irony," he said with a hollow bitterness. "A single vague testimony turned me into a rapist and murderer. My parents couldn't hold their heads high in town. My grandparents passed away within 2 years of my imprisonment. Confined, all I could see was a square patch of sky above the prison walls. I knew my life was over, but I couldn't accept it. I told my parents I was innocent, that I could never commit such a monstrous act. They believed me. They started campaigning tirelessly for my release, trying to get the case reopened. It went on for about 7 years. During that time, 4 of my closest relatives died. My father. He was the 4th. The year he passed away, my hair turned completely white." Declan spoke calmly, recounting the devastating losses without a tremor in his voice. Yet the profound grief, the bone-deep chill of his experience, was palpable. "At my lowest point, I thought about ending it all. Then my mother came to visit. By then her mind was already starting to fray. She was often confused. But she kept telling me over and over, 'Hold on, Declan. You have to hold on. You'll be exonerated. Your name will be cleared.' She said I was all she had left in the world. If I was gone, there would be no reason for her to live. I spent that entire night staring at the ceiling, my eyes wide open, waiting for dawn. I watched a spider spin its web in the corner, saw the first rays of sunlight pierce through the barred window. After that night, something shifted. I started studying law. I realized I couldn't rely on anyone else. I had to fight for myself. I had to overturn my own conviction." The wind and rain beat against the window pane. Ava's vision blurred with tears as Declan's quiet voice continued to fill the small room. "I turned 30 the year I was released. The age Confucius called the time for standing firm. Yet, for a long time, I felt perpetually stuck at 16, frozen in that winter when my life imploded. The world changed so much while I was inside. Faster than I could have ever imagined from prison. It felt like I hadn't just lost 14 years. I'd missed the birth of an entirely new era. Everything felt alien. You'll probably laugh, but at first I didn't even know how to turn on the lights in a hotel room, let alone navigate the bewildering array of modern technology, popular culture, current lifestyles. I knew nothing. It was like landing on a different planet. But thankfully, I'm a fast learner." He glanced up then, a flicker of self-deprecating humor in his eyes. "To use the current slang, I guess you could say I was considered quite the top student back in the day?" He offered a small smile. Ava tried to mirror it, but her lips trembled. "See?" He gestured vaguely towards the computer. "I can even do digital illustration now, take commissions, earn a living. Not too shabby, right? They say painting requires time and patience. 2 things I had in abundance for 14 years. I must have sketched every corner of that prison countless times. Feels good to finally be able to draw wider landscapes now. And more people." His gaze rested briefly on Ava, her soft hair seeming to catch the dim light. "At 16, he mused, I had so many dreams. Get into the best university, have a prestigious career. Now, almost half my life later, I find that just being able to see a wide expanse of sky, breathe fresh air, and push my mother under the trees on a sunny day, that feels like happiness too. Doesn't it? He paused, then turned fully towards Ava, his white hair stark against the shadows, his expression softening, his voice gentle. And, he added softly, being able to sit here sharing dumplings with you. It was late, around 10 p.m., when Declan received Ava's call. He was in his small living room, carefully painting a wooden rocking horse he'd crafted for Lily. Just the finishing touches, adding vibrant colors, remained. Since the night he'd shared his past, their connection had deepened palpably. Something delicate yet resilient was blossoming between them in the cold, rainy winter nights. Naturally, their small families had become more intertwined. Lily adored Declan, openly calling him daddy, and showering him with unfiltered affection. Declan, in turn, had not only become her art master, but had also taken on the task of walking her to and from kindergarten. The other children, far from being scared by his white hair, were fascinated by his artistic skill. They'd crowd around him full of praise. Lily, your daddy is so cool. Even his hair is awesome, like a superhero from a comic book. Lily, usually quiet at school, would puff up with pride, hugging Declan tightly. Yep, he's the best. The very best in the whole world. Declan would just smile, not correcting her innocent claim, a warmth spreading through his own chest. Ava, meanwhile, often checked in on Declan's mother, giving her massages, chatting with her. The elderly woman had moments of lucidity. During those times, she'd hold Ava's hand tightly, her eyes twinkling as she endlessly praised Declan's intelligence and talent, her matchmaking intentions clear. Ava would simply smile, lowering her gaze bashfully. Yes, Auntie, I know. I know how wonderful he is. Better than anyone. Everything seemed to be moving towards a brighter future. Life felt hopeful again, which made the frantic, tearful phone call, coming so close to the new year, all the more jarring. Ava was sobbing uncontrollably on the other end. Declan, I'm so scared, so scared. Declan shot to his feet, his heart lurching. Ava, don't cry. Where are you? What happened? I'm at the police station, she whispered between choked sobs, her voice trembling with panic and helplessness. The store manager. She accused me of stealing. But I didn't, Declan, I swear I didn't. I'm being framed. Framed. No one understood the weight of that word, the bitter taste of false accusation, better than Declan. When he arrived at the police station, he found Ava huddled on a bench, curled into a small ball, shivering, her nose red from crying. She looked like a small, terrified forest creature cornered by predators. Just like that 16-year-old boy, dragged into a police station years ago, filled with fear and despair. An unexpected stinging moisture filled Declan's own eyes. Ava looked up, her gaze meeting his across the sterile room. In that instant, the world seemed to fall silent, leaving only the two of them. The emotions Ava had managed to suppress surged forth at the sight of him. Sometimes you don't feel the true depth of your despair until the person you trust arrives. Fresh tears streamed down her face. She shook her head desperately. I didn't do it, she choked out. I really didn't. Declan walked towards her, his smile gentle yet resolute. I know, he said softly. Don't be afraid. I'm here now. The alleged theft was depressingly simple. A customer had purchased a relatively expensive electronic drawing tablet from the baby supply store. A few days later, her child having shown no interest, the customer wanted to return it. However, the packaging was opened, tags removed, making it ineligible for return according to store policy. The customer was annoyed. Ava, seeing an opportunity, had approached her. Would you consider selling it to me at a discount? Lily loved drawing. Ava thought it would make a perfect New Year's gift. It should have been a mutually agreeable solution. But after the customer left, as Ava was packing up the tablet, ready to leave work with her treasured gift, the store manager confronted her. Ever since Ava received the outstanding employee bonus, the manager had been looking for an excuse to cause trouble. Finding no fault with Ava's work ethic, she seized upon this incident. Despite Ava's explanations, the manager adamantly accused her of stealing the tablet and dragged her straight to the police station. Conveniently, the store's surveillance cameras were broken. The customer who sold Ava the tablet wasn't answering her phone. Ava and the manager had been stuck at the station for hours, the manager aggressively demanding Ava be fired and even prosecuted. Finally, reaching her breaking point, Ava had called Declan. He hadn't even known she was working at the baby store during the day, thinking she was only at the convenience store. After quickly grasping the situation, Declan didn't waste words. He walked directly up to the store manager. "Are you certain the surveillance cameras were broken?" The manager, a middle-aged woman with bright red lipstick, puffed up defensively, her stance contrasting sharply with Ava's crumpled form. "What are you implying?" "That I'd lied to the police." "Whether you lied or not, you know the truth," Declan stated coldly, his voice resonating in the quiet station. "I'm simply reminding you. Misleading the police, concealing evidence, and falsely accusing someone all carry legal consequences. Think carefully before you answer. Don't let reckless words bring ruin upon yourself." The woman was visibly intimidated by Declan's calm intensity. She stammered, "Who are you? Trying to scare me? I studied law for nearly 10 years. Who do you think I am?" Declan replied obliquely, letting the implication hang in the air. As expected, the manager's face changed. "No way. Ava, you hired a lawyer over this petty issue? Are you actually planning to sue me?" "Why shouldn't she?" Declan's gaze was sharp as a blade, his white hair seeming almost luminous under the harsh fluorescent lights. "Is this police station your personal playground? You think you can falsely accuse someone 'cause a scene, and then just walk away unscathed?" "Ava, make the call," he instructed, not turning around. Ava, still on the bench, looked up confused. "Call? Call who?" "Call the neighbor of the customer who sold you the tablet," Declan said, his mind working quickly. "You mentioned she came to the store. Because her neighbor recommended it, right? You helped them both register for memberships. You should have their contact information. Have the neighbor go knock on her door. Get the customer down here. This isn't over. Whoever made the false accusation must face the consequences. Either resign immediately, or prepare to receive a lawyer's letter and face a lawsuit." His powerful words echoed in the station. The manager visibly wilted, her legs seeming to give way as she sank weakly onto a nearby chair. By the time everything was sorted out and they left the police station, it was nearly midnight. The streets were deserted, empty under the falling snow. Streetlights cast a silvery glow on the fresh white blanket covering the ground. Declan took off his heavy coat and wrapped it around Ava's shivering shoulders. Before he could speak, she buried her face in his chest, sobbing uncontrollably. Her arms wrapped around him fiercely, clinging as if he were her only anchor in the world. Her warm tears soaked through his shirt, dampening the fabric over his heart, mingling with his own quickened heartbeat. "Sure, it's okay, it's over now. We can go home." Declan's own voice was thick with emotion. He gently patted her back, murmuring soft reassurances as one would to a frightened child. Ava lifted her tear-streaked face from his chest, gazing up into his eyes for a long moment. Then, amidst the swirling snowflakes, she whispered his name. "Declan. I'm here." Their eyes met, held. Ava's expression was incredibly serious, her words floating towards him like feathers, landing softly on his heart. "Declan," she said clearly, let's give each other a home. Okay." It was perhaps the most beautiful sentiment Declan had heard in his entire life. Give each other a home. A man like him, scarred by injustice, had long abandoned any hope of love, let alone marriage. He never thought any woman would willingly bind her life to his. Until Ava. Happiness, it seemed, had arrived softly, unexpectedly. But trouble, unfortunately, often travels in tandem. Just 2 weeks before the new year, Declan was picking Lily up from kindergarten when he saw a man well-dressed, with glasses, looking bookish and mild-mannered, arguing agitatedly with Ava in front of their building. "Ava, please don't be angry. Come back home with me, I'm begging you." The man wore respectable clothes, appeared clean-cut and scholarly. Declan instantly guessed his identity. Sure enough, the next second, the man dropped to his knees right there on the pavement in front of Ava. "Ava, please. I've been looking for you for so long. Let's get back together. I really can't live without you." Doors opened along the corridor as curious neighbors peeked out. The man ignored them, clinging to Ava's legs, playing the part of the heartbroken, devoted lover. "Get off me. Let go." Ava struggled to push him away. As she looked up, her eyes met Declan's, standing a short distance away with Lily. The kneeling man turned his head too, his expression suddenly brightening. "Lily. Lily, it's Daddy. Come here, come to Daddy." Declan felt Lily shrink behind his legs, her small hand clutching his tightly. She clearly wanted nothing to do with her supposed father. "Who are you?" the man demanded, scrambling to his feet and glaring hostilely at Declan. And what are you doing holding my daughter? His eyes flickered between Declan and Ava, then a twisted understanding seemed to dawn on his face. He nodded slowly, a strange bitter smile spreading across his lips. I see. This is why you won't come back with me. His body seemed to tremble slightly, his expression growing increasingly erratic. Declan sensed danger. Just as predicted, the man raised his hand abruptly, aiming to strike Ava across the face. Ah! Ava flinched, instinctively throwing her arms up to protect her head. The expected blow never landed. Trembling, she lowered her arms to see Declan standing directly in front of her, his white hair stark against the gloomy corridor. Declan had caught the man's wrist in an iron grip, easily twisting his arm until the man's face contorted in pain. Declan's voice, cold and sharp, sliced through the air, laced with deadly intent. You dare touch her again and I will break this arm. Do you understand me? Everyone carries a past. Declan spent over a decade unjustly imprisoned. Ava wasted her youth, nearly 2 decades entangled with Mark, that worthless excuse for a man. They had grown up together in the same small town, childhood sweethearts who shared innocent moments of young love. That love had felt so real that in her final year of high school, Ava had forfeited a life-changing opportunity for Mark. A benefactor was sponsoring one top student from each class to attend university. The spot was rightfully Ava's based on merit, but she gave it up for the second-ranked student Mark. He told me his family couldn't afford tuition, Ava recounted later, her voice hollow. He said he needed that chance desperately, that he'd cherish it, work hard, get a good job, and never let me down. He promised he'd spend his life making it up to me. My parents were gone, I had no one to guide me. I was young, naive, valued loyalty above all else. Then his mother came and pleaded with me too. Like a fool, I gave up my future for him. I didn't take the college entrance exam. I went straight to work, sending Mark money every month for living expenses. I was so naive then. I thought if he succeeded. I succeeded. I dreamed of marrying him, building a warm home together. No matter how hard I worked, how much I sacrificed, I told myself it would all be worth it. But people change. Mark's mother certainly did. Once her son graduated from a prestigious university, handsome and with promising prospects, her earlier gratitude vanished. Why should her accomplished son marry a high school dropout? Mark always listened to his mother, Ava explained bitterly. But he couldn't quite let me go either. He was torn. I was about to leave him, just walk away. But then, I found out I was pregnant. That spring the young couple married. 6 months later, Ava gave birth to a daughter. And so began her nightmare. During the postpartum month, his mother cursed me daily outside my door, saying things so vile I can't bear to repeat them. And Mark? He always sided with her, telling me not to take it personally, saying things would be better if I just had a son. Then his mother would finally be happy. Ava let out a cold, humorless laugh. His mother would be satisfied? What about me? What about Lily? Ava never conceived again. Her health, already fragile, deteriorated under the constant stress and emotional abuse. Lily, too, seemed perpetually unwell, frequently catching fevers, her development lagging behind other children her age. I cared for Lily day and night, but she wasn't thriving. A suspicion started to grow. I finally took her to the best pediatric hospital in the country, paid for. A comprehensive checkup. Do you know what they found? Ava's body trembled uncontrollably. Her voice strained as she forced out the horrifying truth. That vicious old woman. When Lily was only 6 days old, she inserted a 5-centimeter needle into her fontanelle. There's a cruel, superstitious belief in some rural areas, rooted in deeply ingrained son preference. The idea is to inflict extreme pain on a newborn baby girl, often by inserting a needle into her head, causing a slow, agonizing death. This is supposed to scare away future female spirits from reincarnating into the family, thus ensuring the next child will be a boy. Mark's mother had intended to kill her own granddaughter using this barbaric method. It was only Ava's meticulous care and her intuition that something was wrong, leading her to seek expert medical help, that saved Lily's life when the needle was discovered and removed. I nearly went insane. Ava whispered, her voice raw. His mother claimed it was an accident, that Lily was fine now, the needle was out, what was the big deal? I wanted to tear her apart. I called the police, wanting That evil woman arrested. But Mark panicked. First he begged me. Then when I refused to back down, he snapped. He turned into a monster, grabbing my hair, slamming my head against the wall, beating me brutally. Tears streamed down her face again. She clenched her fists, staring into the distance, reliving the hellish days. Mark is a master manipulator. He presents such a civilized facade to the outside world. Colleagues, neighbors, they all saw him as polite, gentle. No one believed he was capable of domestic violence. The police came, but he and his mother spun a web of lies. They twisted everything, claimed I had postpartum depression, that I was delusional, paranoid, making it all up. Domestic violence, a term gaining more attention recently, remains a hidden epidemic. Statistics reveal harrowing numbers. A significant percentage of married women experience it. Victims, often silenced by shame or fear, the phrase internal family matter, frequently used to dismiss their suffering. Trapped and desperate, Ava finally resolved to save herself and her daughter. I demanded a divorce. Mark, of course, refused. He hired the best lawyer, argued I was unfit, only a high school education, financially unstable. He even falsely claimed I had bipolar disorder, that Lily couldn't stay with me. He threatened to fight for full custody, ensuring I'd never see her again, unless I signed an agreement leaving the marriage with absolutely nothing. Mark assumed this would break her, force her to stay. He underestimated Ava's determination. Leaving with Lily, escaping that hellhole, was worth any price. I walked away with nothing but Lily, Ava said, her voice quiet but firm. I finally escaped that prison. I would never let my daughter suffer another moment of harm. No matter how hard my life became, it was a price I willingly paid. After the divorce, Mark predictably regretted it. He began searching for Ava obsessively. Deep down, he harbored a twisted, possessive need for her. Even when his mother tried to set him up with a well-educated woman from a good family after his graduation, he hesitated, unable to completely sever the ties to Ava. Perhaps it could be called love, but it was a distorted, dangerous form. After each violent outburst, he'd collapse in tears, begging forgiveness, promising it would never happen again, only to repeat the cycle. Endless apologies, followed by renewed violence. Ava couldn't endure that terrifying, suffocating love. She just wanted to disappear, to never see his face again. 4 years she and Lily lived looking over their shoulders, constantly moving, until they met Declan. She thought finally they might have found peace. But Mark had found them again. Ava trembled, covering her face again, consumed by the painful memories. Strong arms wrapped around her, pulling her into a solid embrace, offering silent comfort. Declan stood holding her, his chin resting gently on the crown of her head. Ava, he said softly, his voice filled with quiet conviction. Let's go get married. Ava stilled in his arms, then muffled sobs shook her shoulders. My health isn't good, she choked out. I might not be able to have another child for you. But we already have a child, don't we? Declan tilted her face up, his smile gentle, his eyes holding hers. Even the kids at kindergarten know I'm Lily's daddy. She is my daughter. Isn't she? They looked at each other for a long silent moment. Then Ava buried her face in his chest again, tears flowing freely. They clung together in the winter night, heartbeats sinking, an unspoken promise of permanence sealing between them. If only, Ava whispered brokenly, if only your years weren't spent in prison, and mine weren't wasted with Mark, if only we could have met sooner. It's not too late now. Life's detours had been long and painful, but they had finally found each other. He was the light that pierced her darkness. She was the gentle rain on his parched soul. Two wounded spirits finding solace and strength in each other's arms, making the cold nights warmer. The old scars ache a little less. 'Cause now there was us. On the last working day before the New Year holiday, Ava and Declan went to the registry office and got married. Their small family, Declan, Ava, Lily, and Declan's mother in her wheelchair, went to the market to buy festive supplies. The lanterns glowed brightly, the streets bustled with cheerful crowds. Declan held Lily's hand while Ava pushed the wheelchair. They were laughing and talking when both their phones buzzed simultaneously. I got the store manager position. The state compensation has finally been processed. Ava and Declan looked up from their phones, identical surprised smiles spreading across their faces. What compensation? Ava asked, puzzled. Declan smiled, looking up at the darkening sky. exhaling deeply. For the 14 years I lost, he explained quietly. The national compensation for wrongful imprisonment. He hadn't told her about it before, not out of secrecy, but wanting to give her a small, hopeful surprise amidst the winter chill. After the new year, he continued, his eyes shining, we can start looking for a house. If the money isn't enough, we'll buy something smaller. As long as we're together as a family, that's all that matters, right? The cold wind ruffled his white hair. Ava looked at his smiling face, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. She nodded, squeezing his hand tightly. Just as she was about to speak, her phone rang again. An unfamiliar number. Answering it, Ava's expression immediately turned cold. Declan guessed who it might be. Muffled crying could be heard from the other end, but Ava cut the caller off curtly. Wrong number. Without hesitation, she ended the call, deleted the record, and blocked the number. All in one swift, decisive sequence. Who was that? Declan asked quietly. Ava resumed pushing the wheelchair, navigating through the festive market crowd, her good mood entirely unaffected. Mark's mother, she replied dismissively. Said he got drunk, had a car accident, ended up in the hospital. Might need an amputation. She was begging me to go back and take care of him. The shrewish, ignorant old woman who had caused her so much pain had been sobbing hysterically, pleading for Ava to reconcile with Mark, to care for him for the rest of his life, offering to kneel and apologize. Take care of him? After everything? Ava gave a short, cold laugh. There was a new resilience in her eyes, a strength that hadn't been there before. I was merciful enough not to sue them. Going back? She must be dreaming. Declan couldn't help but smile. Not even going to visit him in the hospital? Ava shook her head firmly, her tone still icy. Maybe they can let me know when his funeral is. I'll consider sending flowers. The world often preaches forgiveness, turning the other cheek, being the bigger person. Books and movies champion saintly figures who absorb suffering without complaint. But why? As the saying goes, if you repay evil with kindness, how then do you repay kindness? Ava was done looking back. Her focus was forward, building a life with Declan and Lily, caring for his mother, cherishing this hard-won, long-overdue happiness. Everything else was irrelevant noise. The wind tugged at their clothes, but holding Declan's warm, strong hand, Ava didn't feel the cold at all. Lily suddenly pointed excitedly towards the colorful lanterns swaying overhead. Daddy, look! The fish are flying in the sky. Declan chuckled, ruffling her hair, his gaze soft. Yes, they are. Flying so high. How about Daddy makes you a big fish kite just like that? Lily squealed with delight, bouncing around her grandmother's wheelchair, already imagining soaring through the air on her magical fish, free and unbound, seeing all the world's wonders. Fireworks burst overhead, painting the night sky with brilliant colors. Declan and Ava looked at each other and smiled, their eyes reflecting the dazzling light. The new year was here. And it felt good. So very good.